Hi everyone, Greg Meskel here, welcoming you to the 2021 USA Water Polo General Assembly. I think I speak for all of us when I say we wish we could be in the room together today, and I know we're all excited to get back on a pool deck together in the near future. With that in mind, we hope everyone in your world, your family, your friends, your water polo community are feeling healthy and well in these challenging times. Ahead, we have a whole host of informative reports about everything USA Water Polo. But before we get to that, a couple of housekeeping items. For those registered as assembly attendees, you should have received two links via email. One, a Google form link allowing you to submit questions for our upcoming Q&A session, and second, a Zoom registration link to allow you to access that Q&A session where your questions will get answered. Secondly, if you're here as a delegate taking part in USA Water Polo governance business later today, you should have received two additional links. One, another Google form where you can offer comments and questions about items to be discussed and reviewed during that governance session, and then a second Zoom link to take part in that session as well. With that in mind, we're about set to kick things off. I'll now pass it over to the USA Water Polo Board Chairman, Mike Graff, for his address.
Good morning. First and most importantly, I hope all of you are well and your families are well. If you have had COVID, I hope you've had a full recovery. I'm sure many people on this call have had a difficult time financially over the past 10 months, and I hope you've been able to find ways to cope with that stress as well. This will be my last time speaking with you as your chair. I would like to recognize a few people this morning and thank them for their help. First, I'd like to thank Ted Wegland, who has unfortunately resigned from the board for business reasons related to the pandemic. Second, I would like to thank all the former board members who have served our sport and have since left the board. Third, I would like to welcome Nori Gerardo-Leitz, Susan Bao, Laura Mueller, John Mann, and Frank Casada. They bring a range of skills, knowledge, and passion to your board. We are delighted to have them with us. And it's my special pleasure to announce that my respected colleague and friend, Bill Smith, will be your new chair. You will hear from Bill in a few minutes. And I promise you it'll be a smooth and very peaceful transition. So today, I will not show you any charts or numbers. Chris will cover the facts detailing our performance. Now, for those of you who weren't at my first assembly as chair back in 2007, and I assume most of you were not there, forgive me for repeating some history. USA Water Polo was in deep trouble. The USOC had put us on probation and threatened to cut off support. We were technically bankrupt. The organization was rife with dissension, self-dealing, and conflict of interest. Our members and national team programs were suffering from neglect. So Russ Haferkamp was asked by the old board and the USOC to recruit a new board. He selected me because I was independent and had no conflicts, an outsider, long retired from playing or other involvement. And I was a business person with particular experience in company turnarounds. I joined for only one reason, my love for this sport and all the good it has given me. This sport changed my life so much for the better. I learned teamwork and perseverance and mental and physical toughness that have helped me every day for the rest of my life. And it has given me the closest friends I have ever had and still do to this day, my teammates from college and from my club teams. And I'm sure that's the case for almost all of you, either for yourself or a loved one or both. I've been chair because I was qualified and willing and able to serve. I have not gotten any compensation, and in fact, I've paid all of my own expenses and other costs for the past 15 years, besides being a substantial donor. I will proudly say that I know that is also true for my distinguished colleagues on the board. I urge you to look at their bios. They are very impressive, and we are extremely fortunate to have their commitment and service. And I know that's also true for our staff and coaches as well. We are very fortunate to have them working full-time to build our sport. So looking back over these years, what am I most proud of and what are my regrets, the agenda I couldn't accomplish? First, the things that I'm most proud of. I got to know a lot of truly wonderful people and reconnect with many more. Together, we have truly transformed U.S. Water Polo from a very troubled organization to one that is viewed as a premier NGB with all the benefits that that entails. We have grown dramatically over this period, more than doubling our membership with many more events and clubs. The national office doesn't do that. You all do that. It takes someone with initiative to start a club, organize pool time, find players, and then find competition. That's what I did back in the day, and many on this board, like Bill and Houston and Garrett, certainly have. We can support, but the local leadership makes growth happen. So thank you. We have significantly increased the number of women playing our sport. We have nationalized our sport, growing our membership much faster outside of California than within the state. All of this growth has created many more opportunities for people to earn their living or supplement their income through jobs as water polo coaches, referees, or administrators. And that is certainly a very good result. The prime example of this is Texas, which has made water polo an official high school sport. We expect hundreds of high school teams and many new clubs over the coming years. All of those teams will need coaches and referees. It will provide great opportunities for people in our sport. And a special shout out to Joe Linehan and Houston Hall for their leadership. Splash ball is something I'm especially proud of, and I think it has tons more potential. Making it fun and safe to be in the water, that's a wow. Helping kids learn to swim can be life-saving, and I hope we can work diligently to get splash ball widely adopted in areas that have limited access to pools and swimming instruction. We've seen growth also at the college level. It's been reignited with more Division I teams and more Division III teams for both men and women, which is providing more opportunity for high school athletes to gain a college education while continuing to play their sport at a high level. Our master's programs have grown dramatically with multiple events available almost every month. Special shout out to Brian Weaver and Dion Gray for their efforts to give players opportunities to continue after high school and college. Our national team programs have been transformed as well. There is a clear strategy with outstanding stewardship led by John Abdu, Adam, and Dayon. We have well-funded cadet, youth, and junior team programs fed by our Olympic Development Program. We have increased pay for our senior team athletes, not enough yet, but we are making progress. And we've started a new program to help our senior team athletes called the Strategic Business Council, which has recruited more than 10 major companies to provide jobs for athletes while they are still on the national team so that they can get important career experience and earn attractive compensation to help them make a smoother and more successful transition to life after the national team. We have worked hard to protect our members from physical, mental, and sexual abuse. And we have recently started an effort led by John Abdu and Brenda Villa to reduce racial prejudice and abuse. These efforts and the renewal and refinement of our grievance process and safe sport compliance have been led by Christy Sicard and Richard Esterkin. I thank them both for their commitment and leadership to help us get better and fairer. And make no mistake about it, we have zero tolerance for abuse of any kind. And last, not the least, what can I say? Our amazing women's national team. As my daughters say, OMG, what can you say? Sustained success, great pipeline, wonderful people, players, coaches, and staff. A shout out to all of them. And finally, we are now a robust and sound institution. Pre-COVID, our revenues had more than tripled from the dark days. So we have resources now which allow new opportunities for members, more events, more training, more experience, more support for our national teams, and the ability to attract and retain an excellent staff. So that's what I'm most proud of. Regrets, as Frank Sinatra said, yes, there are few. I regret to be leaving in the middle of this pandemic, which has inflicted great stress on our members, our teams, and our organization. I regret that I am leaving before we have a final signed deal with Irvine for the National Training Center. COVID has set that back as well. I regret that I have not seen the men's team get back on the podium at the Olympics since Beijing, but I believe our program has never been stronger. We have a young but very capable team with a great pipeline and talented, committed, and inspirational coaches and support staff. I regret that we haven't been able to make our game more accessible to people of color and those who don't have the finances to be able to be part of a club and travel. There's a lot more work to be done there. And my last regret is that in the face of such achievement, but in the face of such substantial challenges, we still have a small but very vocal group of dissatisfied members in our community. I know you can't win them all, but I would like to think we could. Some were members of our national teams long ago. Why are they dissatisfied? I really don't know. I wish I did, and I could try to do something about it, because we can always be better. Everyone can. We have always been open to suggestions and new ideas to improve our service to the sport. No one is unwelcome. Because they can't challenge the organization's performance, they've spread rumors and cast doubt on the behavior and motivation of our leadership. That is not right, and it should stop. I believe they have their issues, but they are also unwitting pawns under the influence of a major law firm that is currently unfairly suing U.S. Water Polo and trying to pressure us into a large, unjustified settlement to make them go away. Believe me, it's hurting everyone on this call and all those in our sport, though we are getting singled out. It is doing real harm. It will hurt our sport's ability to attract and retain capable, skilled, and generous board members. It will hurt our sport's ability to retain and attract sponsors. It will hurt our sport's ability to retain our donors. It is causing concern for the USOPC, and it may put the dream of a national training center at risk, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. What is the so what of all this? It's simple. It means less resources and less opportunity for all of our members, less events, less support for our national teams, less new jobs for coaches and referees, worse morale for our talented and dedicated staff, and a tarnished reputation for our organization and our sport. And I know I talk to many of you very, very frequently, and I look at our surveys of member satisfaction, and I always listen for how we can do better. I know from all the material that I've looked at and the people I've talked to that our members are very, very supportive of what we're doing and what we've done together to make this sport so much better over the last 15 years. And that gives me great confidence that we are well positioned for the future. I hope you give U.S. Water Polo your support today and ratify our recommended board candidates for election to another full term. And I hope you approve our proposed bylaw change, expanding the board to 24 members so that we can comply with the new legislation governing all NGBs. We will expand to 33% athlete members, and we want to retain slots for 16 non-athlete directors. In closing, after 15 years as your chair, I'm very proud of your organization. I'm proud of what we have accomplished together, and I'm proud of this board and this staff that have run this organization so professionally. Their performance has been truly outstanding, as is their passion for our sport. They are ethical and have a strong moral compass, and that is beyond reproach. Thank you for the opportunity to serve as your chair. It has enriched my life. Thank you.
Now time for the CEO address with Christopher Ramsey.
Hi, I'm Chris Ramsey, and this is my CEO management report to all of you regarding the current state of USA water polo. Today, I'd like to talk with you about our national teams and elite performance programs. I'd like to talk about our member programs, including events like Junior Olympics. I'd like to touch on athlete safety and the U.S. Center for Safe Sport and our compliance programs for that. I want to do a shout out to our Racial Equity and Reform Task Force. I want to address progress with our National Training Center. I'll talk a little bit about our financial status, although I'll leave the lion's share of that to Scott Aubin, our Director of Finance, later in the morning. And then finally, some of our goals for the year and my final thoughts on where USA Water Polo stands today. So let's talk a bit about our national teams and elite performance. First, we have to address the questions surrounding the Olympic Games. Are they going to happen? Aren't they going to happen? What can we expect? It's already been a very heavy lift keeping our national teams together for a full additional year. And by the way, that includes additional athlete support and programming for them. It's been very challenging, and it's been very challenging for them to continue to train for this extended period. Still, I'm confident the Olympic Games will go forward in Tokyo. I know there have been some reports about reticence on the part of some in the Japanese government. Will there be changes? Almost certainly. It could look like the bubble that the NBA did over the summer. It could look like some of the stadiums we see in the NFL now. I think the commitment of the Japanese to host these games remains solid. But I will say stay tuned because there may be some adjustments as we go. So, how about our teams? Are they ready? Well, we know our women's team will be. They've been the dominant program in the world for the past 8 years. The team simultaneously holds the titles of Olympic champions, world champions, Pan American champions, FINA World League champions, and FINA Cup champions. And they're going for their third consecutive gold medal in the Olympics, a three-peat. They are the only team in women's water polo history to medal in every Olympics since water polo became an Olympic sport in the year 2000. I want to give a special shout out to all of the athletes that are making this incredible commitment to the Tokyo Olympic Games, and especially our women's team led by Captain Maggie Steffens, and to the professional staff supporting them led by the one, the only, our coach, Adam Krikorian. On the men's team side, we're in the final stage of a retooling that began in 2013 when we brought in Coach Dejan Udovicic. Unfortunately, most of you probably couldn't see the absolute dominant performance that the men laid on the Canadian team at the Pan American Games in Lima to win their Olympic berth and a Pan American gold medal. It was just a stunning smackdown, frankly. A total of 18 players on the men's side are currently training and competing in Europe with club teams, and they get together regularly to play in tournaments in Europe as a team. This weekend, as a matter of fact, they're going to be in Croatia. And I also wanted to give a shout out to Captain Jesse Smith and to Coach Udovicic for their efforts to prepare for these Olympic Games. We know that you will make us proud. On the pipeline team front, we also had some successes over the past couple of years. I want to recognize our men's silver medal team from the World University Games in Naples in 2019, led by Coach Brian Flax. And I also want to recognize our youth, men's and women's WANA teams, led by coaches Ethan D'Amato on the women's side and by Coach Brian Flax again on the men's side. ODP continues to expand and strengthen itself. We expanded in 2019 with regional ODP championships in North Carolina and Utah. That's a first. We have been adding during the pandemic more skills clinics around the country with appropriate health and safety measures in place and social distancing. And although we're working through some prospective calendar changes to match safety standards, our plan is still to offer a full ODP program this year, although some dates may have to change from time to time. I also wanted to fill you in a little bit on meeting the challenge that we have to support and engage our national team athletes. As we know, water polo is not a big revenue sport like NBA or NFL, and so our players who pursue it, it's really a labor of love to continue on the Olympic pathway. So we've tried to do some things to make that pathway a little more manageable. One big change in the last couple of years is our increase in direct athlete support for national team athletes. We're providing more dollars to a larger group of athletes than ever before. Average annual athlete support grew from a little over $600,000 for the 2013 to 16 quad to average annual support of $723,000 during this current quad. In round numbers, that means DAS, this quad will be about $3.6 million, which is up from $2.4 million in the previous quad. We've also looked to try to get our athletes more professional career opportunities and development through a vehicle called the Strategic Business Council. Athletes have been placed in paying jobs that align with their professional interests at firms like Western Digital, Eli Lilly, Allied Universal Security, and Edwards Life Sciences. Other firms have also indicated they're going to be participating in this program as the pandemic subsides, including companies like JP Morgan, Nike, 5 Point, Goldman Sachs, and Accenture. We believe this program is a key to improving athlete retention and also to honoring the commitment our athletes make to our organization and to our country by putting them in a position to succeed when their playing careers are over and they're ready to move into a more professional career in the business world. I also want to recognize the placement of men's national team athletes with European clubs this past year so that they can continue to train and compete during the pandemic. In addition to playing with clubs, the men have also coordinated national team training camps in Europe, scheduled regularly, including one this weekend in Croatia. The U.S. Olympic Committee has also been able to improve elite athlete health insurance for our athletes. And through support from our marketing department, many athletes seeking representation and spokesperson roles or sponsorship endorsements have been able to sign deals and also begin to understand what this marketplace is like for water polo athletes. But the end result is we're getting more water polo players in the national media, and that is a win-win for the athletes and for USA Water Polo. Member programs, obviously with the pandemic, this has been a tough year. Overall membership fell about 12,000 from our high watermark of 50,000 members in 2019 to about 38,000 this year. We expect those numbers to bounce back for the 2021 year. And one of the things that we did in 2019 was measure our customer satisfaction, member satisfaction. And we learned that about 95% of responding members, which were total more than 2,700 who responded to these surveys, expressed satisfaction with USA Water Polo programs and services in 2019. A solid majority of responding members ranked USA Water Polo professionalism, customer service, value, and communication of USA Water Polo as excellent or very good. We've put a large investment in emerging markets and particularly Texas. And 2019 represented a game changer for us when the UIL adopted varsity high school water polo as an official sport in the Lone Star State. In light of the pandemic, Texas has delayed adopting water polo and starting it until 2022, but that's frankly right around the corner. The silver lining of that is right now there are more programs than there are coaches and referees in Texas that want to adopt water polo. So this is going to give us a longer runway to provide training for coaches and referees for those hundreds of new teams that are expected to play water polo again in the Lone Star State. And our hope is to replicate the Texas experiment and the lessons we've learned in other states around the country as we continue our drive to truly nationalize water polo across America. We are still planning to hold National Junior Olympics this year in Irvine, July 17th through 25th. This is not only the largest water polo tournament in the world, but really one of the most exciting. It's a gigantic festival, in addition to being a competitive crucible. And we're thrilled that we're going to be able to get it together this year and very excited to have opportunities to get everybody back on the pool deck. I want to go back to professional development for a second because we really made significant innovations in professional development programming during the 2020 year. Frankly, it allowed our community to study up while the pools have been closed. I also want to note that we have plans in 2021 to establish a competition committee made up of club leadership. So any of you who are interested in serving on that competition committee to help have a larger voice in USA Water Polo national programming, please speak up. We would like to have a nice cross-section from across the country advising us and leading this effort to continue to improve our competition matrix. Athlete safety is a huge topic these days, and it of course is job one. We have been working through the steady expansion of the U.S. Center for Safe Sport Programs. This has meant, among other things, a meaningful effort to establish uniform safety standards across the entire Olympic movement. I also want to identify that the center is independent. It formally opened its doors March 2017. It's authorized by congressional legislation, and it is really a critical point for all of us to end abuse in the Olympic movement. USA Water Polo received a 100% compliance rating in its first audit by the center. And as the center continues to roll out programs and policies, it will provide training and education for our members. It provides reporting, response, and resolution services. It provides a centralized disciplinary database for all Olympic sports. So by going to the center, you can search for any USA Water Polo or frankly any NGB member and get a report if their current status is good to go or if there is any suspension or other items on their record. And also there is a beefed up audit and compliance aspect to the center. On an annual basis now, NGBs like ours are being audited to make sure that we are compliant with center and U.S. Olympic Committee policies. USA Water Polo is also going to continue to pursue best practices in this area of sexual abuse, and we are engaging a consulting firm, Bokram, to help audit club procedures and ensure that all clubs and events are using best practices in this area. And we will be in touch with you about that process as we move forward. We also are planning to introduce revised minor athlete abuse prevention policies in the first quarter of this year. I also want to do a shout out to Christy Sicard. USA Water Polo has named her our Senior Director for U.S. Safe Sport Compliance in 2019. And she continues in that role And she is really our point person to make sure that we're doing everything in our power to make a safe environment for training and competition at USA Water Polo. I also want to briefly address open litigation. We are currently engaged in lawsuits relating to a coach member's alleged sexual misconduct. We believe that we have acted properly. The suits also name the Anaheim and Irvine Unified School Districts and the International Water Polo Club. The coach has been suspended and subsequently was banned from USA Water Polo since January 2018, when we were first informed of the allegations by the U.S. Center for Safe Sport, which has exercised exclusive jurisdiction in this matter. Criminal charges have also been filed against the coach, and the case will likely take some years to reach a resolution. Protective policies continue to be in place and enforced, which have been recognized as 100% compliant by the U.S. Center for Safe Sport and the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee. Later today, you'll get a full presentation from Brenda Villa and John Abdu on our Racial Equity and Reform Task Force, but I also wanted to give a gold star to this effort and to the leadership and to everybody volunteering their time to serve on this really important effort. I want to emphasize that it has our full organizational support. Currently, the task force is tackling integration of racial equity and diversity at all levels of USA Water Polo to ensure equal access and opportunity for all. We are looking at things like the grievance processes and reporting mechanisms, as well as training and education. And you'll hear more from Brenda and John about that later this morning. You may wonder about the National Training Center, which was approved by the Irvine City Council in October of 2019 and calls for a new 3-pool, 36,000 square foot National Center and Stadium for USA Water Polo in Irvine. The project will cost in excess of $50 million, not including the land. The OC Great Park and Heritage Fields is funding construction. USA Water Polo is raising $10 million as a maintenance and innovation fund to keep the NTC properly maintained over its lifetime, and also to put us in a position to add new elements as new technologies and breakthroughs come forward in the years ahead. This project has been, like so many things, delayed in light of the pandemic, but should move ahead again in 2021. Later today, you'll hear from our Director of Finance, Scott Oppen, on financial status, but I wanted to give you a few headlines from my perspective. First, we've gone from audit reports in the 2005-2006 era that detailed more than $600,000 in net liabilities. For those of you who weren't around in those times, the dire financial state of USA Water Polo caused the auditor to note that USA Water Polo was not a going concern. And frankly, it threatened our sanction as the sport's governing body. To our current status today, where we have a clean audit opinion and are projected to exceed $5 million in net assets, restricted mostly for the training center, but frankly, we've also been able to not only pay off our debt, but amass a surplus. There are many reasons for the financial turnaround, including serious and regular board oversight, a robust annual giving program, and our collective ability to grow our sport nationally. This has been a rising tide that has lifted all boats. One key to success has been diversification of income, going from 3 to 4 revenue streams in the early 2000s to today, where we have new sources of revenue contributing to our overall resource base and our budget health. USA Water Polo projects that we will finish 2020 modestly in the black for operations, with about $10 million in total revenue, which includes nearly $2 million surplus when accounting for restricted gifts to the National Training Center. These results were helped by a comprehensive austerity program implemented in April that saw staff salary reductions from 15 to 25%, put on hiatus a 401k company match, and I am pleased to report we are going to be able to move out of austerity this January, and we anticipate being able to get it just about everybody back onto full salary. We have adopted a balanced budget for 2021, including contingencies in case the pandemic does not recede as anticipated, in which case some of our programs are scalable. The Paycheck Protection Program provided an important shot in the arm last year with a grant of nearly $700,000, and we are hopeful that we will be eligible for further pandemic aid in 2021. And I also hope that all of you at your club level are also applying for this really helpful program. We surpassed our goal for annual giving in 2020, receiving more than $825,000, with total charitable contributions for the year exceeding $1 million. Donor participation was up 27% this past year from 2019 in year-end giving. And the number of annual fund donors increased to 531, up from 417 in 2019. Granted, the pandemic, frankly, just an extraordinary philanthropic performance. So what are our goals for 2021? Well, we'd like to medal at the Tokyo Olympic Games, and we believe our men's and women's teams are poised to do that. We'd like to jumpstart training and competition in the wake of the pandemic, as I know all of you would, and that's going to be something we're all going to work together closely on to get moving. We also want to work more closely with our clubs to meet member needs, including our new competition committee, and explore additional feedback loops so that we are working together to achieve our goals. We also want to build on the library of professional development work established in the past year to expand water polo knowledge and collaboration across the nation. We want to use the lessons of Texas to grow water polo in new regions across the USA. And we want to break ground on our new National Training Center. Finally, we want to continue to set the standard for best practices in athlete safety and to further communicate our health and safety protocols and procedures on a more regular basis to our clubs and to all of our members. I have a few final thoughts I'd also like to share with you. The pandemic has impacted all aspects of our society. It's created hardships for individuals, for businesses, and for organizations like ours. I know that for everyone in the water polo community, the pandemic has been a gut punch. I have spoken with many of you who, despite some financial relief from the government, have seen your clubs struggle without access to pools and have had to shrink or furlough staff and programming. Referees have suffered without games to officiate. We understand and sympathize regarding exactly how hard times are for everyone. We should recognize, however, that things will not be this way forever. There will be change. Spring will come. The science will kick in, and we can expect renewed interest and excitement for sports and sporting events like the Olympic Games and club water polo. Neither has this year been squandered. Coaches and clubs have shown creativity and commitment to keep our athletes engaged. There have been lessons learned from our experiences, and we have substantially increased our capacity for online professional development. This is a key expansion in markets like Texas, which, as I mentioned, will be employing hundreds of new coaches and referees in the coming years, many of them looking for more training and certification. We need to be ready for the chance to leverage demand. It is an opportunity to broaden our sports reach, deepen its impact, and expand polo in every pool across the nation, led by the outstanding examples of our women's and men's national teams. Our association is strong precisely because of our passion for water polo. Not everyone plays or coaches the same way, but we share a standard of excellence and an appreciation for the nobility of competition. The work all of you are doing in your clubs and on the pool decks is making a difference in people's lives. It is, frankly, inspirational. I believe that more and more people will find our sport attractive because of your efforts. Your work has led to a positive, high-achieving culture with a little fun thrown into the bargain. Our sport will continue to gain traction, and we look forward to watching water polo here in the USA emerge from this pandemic stronger than ever. Working together, we can capitalize on demand and get ready to play some offense. It's an honor working together with all of you to grow our sport, support our national teams, and continue building on the big picture momentum that water polo is experiencing, from elite club water polo to age group to masters to splash ball. The pandemic has slowed us down, yet as it recedes, I am confident that your commitment to our sport will bring water polo back stronger than ever. Thank you again for all you do, the lives you touch, and for making our water polo world a better place.
Now time for the USA Water Polo incoming board chairman introduction with Jessica Steffens.
Hi everyone, I'm Jessica Steffens, one of our 4 athlete directors on the board and a member of the nominating committee. You'll hear from me again later today, but for now, I'm excited to welcome our new board chairperson, Bill Smith. Bill joins us from the Northeast Zone and is a great club advocate for that region. He's always bringing lots of ideas on how we can grow the sport, not only there, but across the country and even internationally. And on that, he has broad international and FINA experience. In fact, he's even the president of USAS, the United States Aquatic Sports. And he also brings strong financial management skills and has taken on lots of roles already within the USA Water Polo Board. And I wanted to also mention that I'll never forget seeing Bill up in the stands for the '08 Olympic Games cheering us on. So thank you for being a super fan of our sport. And with that, Bill, I'll pass it over to you.
Hi, this is Bill Smith. I have to say, I wish we were together in person right now. SurveyMonkey did a survey on virtual presentations and found out that when someone is talking, on average, you are doing other work. 56% of you are eating or making food right now. 43% are on social media, and fully 21% of you are buying something on Amazon. So I'm going to try to keep my presentation short and keep it to the point to keep your attention today. Do you remember when you first were introduced to the sport of water polo? My introduction came with a knock on the door of my freshman college dorm room about a week after I started school. I was on the swim team at the time, but until that visit, I had never heard of the sport of water polo, never saw a game. I had no idea it was an Olympic sport. Water polo in the East back then wasn't even on the level that would be called a niche sport. It was a group of ultimate diehards. Water polo for me was love at first sight. Water polo has been a lifelong passion for me. I'd like to start by thanking the board for electing me to be your next chairman of USA Water Polo. Now, I'm not going to say much about Chairman Mike Graff here today, except to say that his leadership has been transformational to our sport. The facts show that water polo today is one of the fastest growing sports in America. The sport is financially stable, and our national teams, despite COVID, are as strong as they can be. I have only 2 objectives for this short talk today. One is to describe my connection with water polo and FINA, and also to talk a little bit about the future. In summary, I've been a water polo athlete, an AAU All-American, a coach for collegiate, high school, and age group athletes, a new club organizer, and a club administrator. I've been on the board of FINA USA for the past 10 years. I was elected president of that organization about 2.5 years ago. According to the FINA USA bylaws, as president, I am the official spokesperson for all aquatic sports in the United States and abroad. I represent all USA aquatic sports internationally, including USA Swimming, USA Diving, USA Artistic Swimming, USA Masters, and of course, USA Water Polo. Paul Barron and Jim Schwartz were my first water polo coaches when I started playing in college and at the Philadelphia Aquatics Club, or as we referred to it, PAC. PAC's primary opponent back in the day was the New York Athletic Club. Bruce Wygo was the pool manager at PAC when I was there, and I first met Wolf Wygo when he was about 3 weeks old. I ended up coaching at 3 universities, Villanova, Indiana University, and the University of Pennsylvania. Brett Bernard was the coach in my first year at Penn. I took over as player coach when he graduated. After getting my MBA, I dropped out of water polo for about 10 years, working as a turnaround management consultant and as an investment banker on Wall Street. My opportunity to get back into water polo came after I was laid off due to a broad-based reduction in force on Wall Street. This was also my opportunity to become an entrepreneur. I started Renaissance Capital over 25 years ago with 2 women I met as classmates while getting my MBA. I'm proud of the fact that Renaissance Capital today is classified as a women-owned minority firm. Most of the women at my firm are women. Now, without the commute to Wall Street, I was able to coach at Greenwich High School. I later started up 2 age group water polo clubs, Greenwich Aquatics, and another club that was the predecessor to Chelsea Piers. In addition, I also started up 3 other high school water polo programs. As the head Northeast Zone age group coach, I was fortunate to be named an assistant coach to Doug Peabody at the Cadet World Championships in Serbia. Now, this experience was a real game changer for me, and it altered the way we coach water polo in Greenwich. So to Doug, thank you. Today, I'm a not so active assistant water polo coach at Greenwich Aquatics. The real heroes at Greenwich Aquatics are the full-time professional coaches led by Ulmus and Kim Tierney Wang, the club director of operations and former Northeast Zone chair. I first met Ed Reynolds from SoCal at the USA Water Polo's Christmas camp in Colorado Springs. It was there that he encouraged me to get involved with USA Water Polo. After volunteering for a period of time, I was asked to be a regular lecturer at Guy Baker's PACE clinics around the country. My signature presentation was Growing the Sport of Water Polo, one club at a time. This national exposure led me to being part of the slate of new directors when Mike Graff was selected as our new chairman. I served on the USAWP board for several years, but ended up stepping off the board in 2014 to focus on my business. I was later invited to rejoin the board in 2016, right before the Rio Olympics. So where do we go from here? First off, I strongly encourage all voting delegates to affirm the slate of board members being presented here today. I'm excited about our racial equity and reform task force initiatives being led by Brenda Villa and John Abdu. We've all been challenged by COVID, but we can see that better times are coming now with vaccines rolling out. Texas is on the cusp of seeing dramatic growth as soon as COVID restrictions are lifted. Because of the strength of our organization, we're better equipped than most other sports to take advantage of the reopening. Coming out of COVID, I believe there's a lot more we can do, expanding splash ball and better integrate it into the Learn to Swim programs. This is a fantastic opportunity to save lives, ignite our minority outreach, and expose our sport to more families. But one thing for sure, Our staff and teams are ready to get going, and we can't wait to be with you. And lastly, we're all looking forward to starting the construction of our National Training Center. So the bottom line is that I'm excited to be working with everyone on this call. You're the leaders of our sport. Thank you.
Now time for the finance report with Scott Aubin.
Hello, I'm Scott Aubin, the Director of Finance for USA Water Polo, and today I'll be reviewing our projected financials for 2020 and outlining our budget for 2021. But before we look at 2020, I want to look at the history of USA Water Polo financially over the past 15 years, from 2006 through 2021. In 2006, USA Water Polo had revenues of $3.9 million and had a negative net assets of $636,000. But from 2006 to 2019, USA Water Polo was able to increase revenue to just under $15 million, almost a 300% increase during this time. Some of the major growth that we've had was membership grew in the same time period from 27,000 members to over 50,000 members last year, an 87% increase. And we've also seen significant growth in fundraising in our ODP program over the years. Looking at net assets in 2006, that net asset number was a negative 636,000. In 2019, we've been able to increase it to a total of 3.2 million, and 2.2 million of those assets with donor restrictions. So let's look at 2020. Obviously, like so many other industries in the United States today, USA Water Polo was significantly impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. We may share with you the impact that the pandemic had on our financials, but want to note before getting into those numbers that these are projections and are subject to audit in the future. Our total revenue in 2020 dropped to just over $10 million, a decrease of about 33% from the 2019 revenue of $15 million. Some of the significant decreases in revenue were a drop in membership. Our members decreased to 38,800 last year, a decrease of 23%. Event revenue decreased by over 85%. Most of our events throughout the year were canceled, except for a few in the beginning of the year. And ODP revenues decreased by over 60%. A lot of our camps and clinics held in the third and fourth quarters need to be canceled or delayed until next year. To offset this, we were able to obtain a payment protection loan in April, and last month we applied to the Small Business Administration for the loan forgiveness for the loan amount. In addition, we were able to continue to fundraise for our National Training Center Restricted Fund. Despite the significant drop in revenue, we're still able to increase our net assets in 2020. Due to taking cost control measures early on in the pandemic, we were able to break even in our operations and have a significant increase for our National Training Center Restricted Fund. Some of the cost reduction measures we took were, we implemented an austerity program ranging from 15 to 25% of staff salaries. With this step taken, we were able to keep most of our staff intact throughout the year. We had reduction in costs for our ODP and events, since most of these costs are scalable. And we also had a reduction in national and pipeline team expenses due to cancellations of competitions throughout the year. The pandemic had an impact on the percentage of revenue we're receiving. In the graph, you can see the graph that compares 2019 revenue to projected 2020 revenue. The most significant changes were event revenue, which made up 17% of our revenue in 2019, dropped down to only 3% of our revenue in 2020. And ODP revenue dropped from 14% to 18% over that year. Looking forward, where do we go from here? Well, for 2021, we have submitted to our board of directors a balanced budget for USA Water Polo operations and growth for our National Training Center Restricted Fund balance. For 2021, we're budgeting an increase in revenue to a total of $14.6 million. $12.8 million of that will be in operations revenue. The 2021 budget has been built on assumptions that the country will have a successful vaccine rollout in the early months of 2021, and that there will be play opportunities beginning in the second quarter of the year. If unfortunately we're not able to meet these assumptions, we'll take measures as we did similar to 2020 and scale down expenses as necessary. In summary, 2020 was definitely a challenging year, but we continue to be in a stable position financially. We wouldn't be able to do this without our members, our corporate sponsors, and those individuals and organizations that have continued to support USA Water Polo through donations. Because of all of you, USA Water Polo has been able to remain a financially strong organization and be in a position to continue to fulfill our mission. Thank you very much for your time and enjoy the rest of your assembly.
Thanks, Scott. Appreciate you joining us. And now we've reached our first break, a 10-minute break on the way. Great chance to get up, stretch your legs, maybe get a drink or a snack. And we'll see you back here with more from the USA Water Polo Assembly in about 10 minutes' time.
Which one? Yellow? Yellow. Now blue? No, orange. Now blue. Whew.
All right, we're back to it here at the USA Water Polo General Assembly. Don't forget those Google form links are still open to submit your questions for the Q&A or for delegates taking part in the later governance session. Your Google form link is open as well. Now we turn to Brenda Villa and John Abdu, co-chairs of the USA Water Polo Racial Equity and Reform Task Force, as they'll share an update on their latest work.
Welcome to the Assembly. This pandemic has exposed so many inequities in our society and in sports. The reckoning our country is experiencing after the killing of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor has brought to light the systems of oppression that exist in all aspects of society, and it has prompted us to take a closer look at our beloved sport. We acknowledge it exists in our sport, and you may be asking yourselves, what are we going to do about it? Great question. We know that we must do better, and we have moved quickly to ensure we are doing better. The creation of the task force was the jumpstart to helping us grow and be more inclusive. Since the creation of the task force in June, we have mobilized quickly to enact some changes, like revising our code of conduct by including a no-zero tolerance, adding more identifiers when you renew your membership. We want everyone to be seen in our community. We created a designated DEI fund to help with initiatives and hosted 2 town hall meetings for our membership. We know there's more work to be done, and my co-chair, John, will share more about that. But before I pass the mic to my co-chair, John, I want to share with you all why I have raised my hand to co-chair this task force. I was incredibly lucky to have been raised in the City of Commerce. They provided access to water safety and free access to teams. That program gave me the ability to thrive and a big part of that was I always felt welcomed, and there was always role models that looked like me that I could look up to. The majority of the team identifies as Latino, Latina, Hispanic, and that was so important in my development and confidence. I want to ensure all our members feel included and welcomed in our sport. John and I were very intentional in creating this all-star team of a task force. We wanted to make sure our membership was represented. We wanted all of our stakeholders represented, administrators, coaches, parents, referees, players, Olympians. We wanted to have geographical representation and diversity. So now I'll pass the mic on to John.
Thank you, Brenda. And it's an honor to serve on this task force with you and have you as a leader in this movement with us as we move forward. As everyone can see here, on the slide, we have, as Brenda referred to, an all-star team of people that have raised their hand to help and be a part of this movement. And those quick wins that we've had so far are just the beginning. And we know that as a task force, we have a lifespan of approximately a year and a half, potentially 2 years, to try to do as much work as we can and embed it within the organization at USA Water Polo, but also outreach as much as we can into the communities, into our clubs, and into what the sport of water polo as a whole, domestically and ambitiously globally as well. And as we look ahead, and Brenda talks about the lack of access in the sport, we just want to provide a little context for you. Going back, there's a very direct link to the historical lack of access to learn to swim programs, the access to water that has led to the lack of diversity in water polo. You can reverse engineer it very quickly back to the discrepancy in equity in access to aquatics. And so there just continues to be this lack of representation on the highest levels and all through our sport. And so this is something that we believe the task force is the long-term goal is to address the systemic issue that has been rooted in American and frankly global history. So we have our task force, and we also have the USOPC Council on Racial and Social Justice that is working on all this. This is a cross-NGB movement, and this is specifically what we're doing here at the USA Water Polo, but also collaborating with many partners across the board here. So we wanted to give you some context here and make ourselves available in the future beyond this assembly, and we appreciate you delegates and everybody being here today. In the future to reach out to Brenda and I as we work on this project. Another quick context here to understand where this is coming from. That disproportionately speaking, there are more drownings amongst people of color than not, and that goes again backwards to knowing here in America. Time Magazine study of just a few years ago stated that over 51% of Americans don't know how to swim. So when we talk about growing our sport of water polo, when we talk about making it more accessible, making it more inclusive, the root of that is the learn to swim, right? The root of that is making access to water so people are water safe, so we can give them an opportunity to play water polo, but also understand that we're trying to keep people safe and save lives, and give people an opportunity to be water safe. And that's the root of this, and this will trickle up. So just some key statistics here that you see from our partners at the International Water Safety Foundation. We've worked with many other partners like the group Diversity in Aquatics, with USA Swimming, with other NGBs as well that are out there, and we'll continue to reach out and make these partnerships. And so what we want to be very clear about this is that while this task force is called the Racial Equity and Reform Task Force, our number one goal is equity, and our number one goal, 1A and 1B, is inclusion, right? So diversity is a byproduct of being more inclusive. Diversity is a byproduct of us creating a more equitable space for access. And so, many critics of diversity movements will ask for quotas or look for numbers and things like that. That's not what we're doing here. If we can create a more equitable space, if we can create a more inclusive space, the diversity and diverse people and diverse groups will be more welcome in our sport. And that's why the image you see here is so important to me. It's not about just creating equality. It's about giving everyone the same opportunity to be in our sport. So within our group, Brenda mentioned that all-star team. And we have 5 subgroups. We have a policies and procedures subgroup. And Brenda mentioned already that one of the quick wins was our ability to create a zero tolerance policy in our code of conduct. So if you go to our code of conduct now, you would see a zero tolerance policy that's already been approved and in your code of conduct. We have an education and training group that's going to help work on training our board of directors, our internal staff, and our members, coaches, athletes, referees, parents. Everyone will be able to have access to educational materials to help them through this process, and that group is working on those things now. We have a research group led within our task force that's utilizing our 2 Ivy League head coaches on the staff and our Ivy League representative Mariko Rooks, who is leading us through that and utilizing the athletes at those institutions to help lead this research. We have our partnerships group where I mentioned some of the groups that we are working with now, and we have our group working towards that. And the end result would be this access subgroup, which is the byproduct of all the work that we are doing. And I'd be remiss to say, Brenda, I've forgotten, you can chime in here, but these groups are all being led by the people that we mentioned on the first slide, right? So our policies and procedures group being led by some very highly qualified people. George Abel, who works at Paul Hastings' firm. We have Scott Newberger, who works as a DE&I consultant and trainer within the Air Force in Arizona. We have Chelsea Johnson, athlete who is also currently a law student at the University of Miami. And so we have some great minds working on it in our education and training group. Scott Newberger also helping with that, but also being led by Clark Weatherspoon, a middle school administrator, head of school. And longtime club coach. We have Yvonne Munoz, former zone chair in the Midwest, educator, bringing a lot to the table there, and Angela Uno, experienced referee and educator, passionate educator in the state of Texas, who's helping lead that group. I mentioned our research group being led by Mariko, and we have Teddy Menes and Felix Mercado and their athletes helping us through that group. In our partnerships group, we have Olympian Tamua and I, who's helping us lead through that group. And all of us, Brenda and I, and all of us included, and we're always intersections in helping in all of these groups and subgroups, with the access piece being all the way through the end. And so would also like to give a shout out to Mai Lamb, who's helping us internally from USA Water Polo in there. So just want to make sure you understand this team is working on these things, and these are the projects over the timeline that we talked about as we go forward. So the benchmarks we hit, I mentioned already, right? We have the zero tolerance policy. We have committed to developing training for everybody as we go. You have greater identifiers, as Brenda mentioned, in your membership forms as we go forward. We're not done yet there. There's more work to do, but these are all just beginnings of where we're headed. And we also have a board designated fund for fundraising. And I'll mention that here, where if now any donor towards USA Water Polo has the ability to designate their donation to a diversity, equity, inclusion fund that will help fund some of the things we're talking about, our outreach, providing equipment to places of need, funding these educational materials as we develop them, and deliver that education to people as needed. And you can get some of that information here and on our website as you donate. We had a tremendous response to the opening of this. Is only a couple of months old, this fund being formed, and we've already had over 60 unique, brand new, first-time donors to USA Water Polo. So we're attracting, I feel, a new group and including more people into the efforts as we try to grow and diversify our sport. And so with that, we're grateful to have given this opportunity to speak to you today. We are available in the future, and Brenda and I have been speaking about this for many years, and we're grateful for USA Water Polo to give us the opportunity to put more action and more teeth behind these efforts to grow and diversify water polo.
Thank you to all the delegates here at the Assembly. We are grateful for your leadership and look forward to partnering with you all as we become a more inclusive sport.
Now time for athlete safety with Richard Esterkin and Christy Sicard.
All right, good morning, everyone. I am Christy Sicard, Senior Director of Membership and Safe Sport Compliance at USA Water Polo. I am here with our outside counsel, Richard Esterkin, who has been serving as pro bono counsel for us for quite some time. We are here today to talk about the U.S. Center for Safe Sport and our interaction with the center. USA Water Polo, along with the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee and other national governing bodies, are committed to providing a positive and healthy and safe environment for our athletes and members that's free from emotional, physical, and sexual abuse. We at USA Water Polo collaborate with the center to foster a culture of safety by raising awareness, developing best practices, and providing education and training to promote respect and prevent abuse. Richard will talk about the statutory background of the center, and I will talk about our interaction and some of the education pieces that we receive from the center.
Okay, good morning, everybody. The Safe Sports Center was originally established by the USOPC in March of 2017 and is now created as a matter of federal law. That federal law prescribes a number of duties for the center. Those include to serve as an independent organization, independent from both the USOPC and the NGBs that it serves. The center exercises jurisdiction over the USOPC and NGBs to protect athletes from emotional, physical, or sexual abuse. Under the center's code, the center's jurisdiction is exclusive as to reports involving sexual abuse and discretionary as to other types of abuse. The center's code prohibits NGBs from investigating allegations of abuse once the center accepts jurisdiction over those allegations. The center is required to maintain an office for education, including development of training and oversight practices, policies, and procedures, in addition to directly addressing reports regarding abuse. The center is also directed by federal law to audit NGBs to ensure that they follow the policies and procedures developed by the center. USA Water Polo was most recently audited by the center in November of 2019. At that time, the center's auditors concluded that USA Water Polo's policies and procedures were 100% compliant with the center's requirements. USA Water Polo is one of a small handful of NGBs that were determined to be 100% compliant by the center's auditors. The center maintains a publicly available website listing adults who are under sanction by the center. And the federal legislation creates a safe harbor against liability for NGBs and their members for actions taken in relation to the center other than actions taken with actual malice. The center is required to adopt reasonable procedures to limit one-on-one interactions between minor athletes and adults in an attempt to prevent abuse before it happens. The NGBs and NGB members are required to report to the center any suspected incidents of child abuse. Because the center and NGBs have overlapping jurisdiction with regard to incidents of abuse other than sexual abuse, I'm going to spend a minute talking about NGB grievance procedures in conjunction with the center. Federal law prohibits NGBs from barring athletes, coaches, or officials from participating prior to providing the accused individual with notice and an opportunity for a hearing. Any reports of abuse can be reported to USA Water Polo by the filing of a grievance with USA Water Polo or filing directly with the center. And you can file with the center directly on the center's website. If an incident of suspected abuse is reported to the center and the center accepts jurisdiction, the center will resolve the report in accordance with its procedures. If an incident of abuse is reported directly to the center and the center declines jurisdiction, the reporting party can file a grievance with USA Water Polo, which will then resolve the grievance in accordance with its procedures. It should be noted, however, that USA Water Polo's bylaws require that the grievance be filed within 6 months of the occurrence of the act upon which the grievance is based. And thus, if a grievance is approaching the 6-month statute of limitations, it may be wise for an individual to file a grievance with USA Water Polo at the same time that a report is made to the center. If a grievance is reported to USA Water Polo that involves potential abuse that is within the center's jurisdiction, USA Water Polo will forward the grievance to the center for a determination as to whether the center wishes to exercise jurisdiction. Once the center makes that determination, the filing party will be informed of the center's determination, and if the center declines to exercise jurisdiction, the reporting party may then elect to pursue the grievance pursuant to USA Water Polo's procedures. With that, Christy is going to address some of the interactions between the center and USA Water Polo and fill in some of the details not directly covered by the laws which I've just described.
Thank you, Richard. As all of you know, education and safety requires action and attention from all of us. As we've talked about each year since the center has come into being, they have done more to secure more funding, grown their staff, created more resources, and established additional processes and programs. The USA Water Polo website has many of these resources available to all members. I will show you now where to find some of these additional resources. To access safe sport information on USA Water Polo's website, you may go to usawaterpolo.org and select Safe Sport in the top blue header, or directly into your address bar of your browser, you can type in usawaterpolo.org/SafeSport. This will take you to USA Water Polo's Safe Sport page with more information from the center and from our resource library. One of the most important items to know from this page is how to report a concern to the U.S. Center for Safe Sport. All violations of the center's code will be reported to the U.S. Center for Safe Sport. You may do so from the right-hand side of your screen under Safe Sport Quick Links. The top option is how to report that concern. For more information, you may also choose to select how to report violations. This includes reporting to the center as well as reporting to USA Water Polo for violations of USA Water Polo rules governing conduct. There's also information on education and training. You can find the education and training link, expand that menu for more information on minor training, parent training, and other specialized training courses, as well as the required core training for adult participants who are required to take the training. The Minor Athlete Abuse Prevention Policy section has more details on limiting one-on-one interactions between minors and adults. There are also additional resources in this section for clubs and members to use to help prevent these interactions. Please make sure to take a look at all of the sections on this page and more information should you have any questions regarding the USA Water Polo's collaboration with the U.S. Center for Safe Sport. In 2021, USA Water Polo will release a new version of the Minor Athlete Abuse Prevention Policies, otherwise known as the MAP. Consistent with the previously issued policy, this collection of policies serve to limit one-on-one interactions between minors and adults. This document is included in our rules governing member conduct. Therefore, a violation of the MAP is also a violation of our rules and could lead to sanction through USA Water Polo grievance procedures. The center is working on documents and implementation resources for clubs and members, as well as training related to these MAP policies. In addition to the MAP, the center is coming up with additional training, specialized courses For example, one including healthcare professionals and one how to create a safe and inclusive environment for athletes with disabilities. While these trainings have additional educational benefits, they do not satisfy the core training requirements of adult participants. Once the center has accepted jurisdiction over a matter, their response and resolution policy will immediately take effect, independent from USA Water Polo. We will now show you a quick 5-minute video to explain this process. Thank you all for your time today. And now we send you off to the center's response and resolution process video.
The Response and Resolution Team investigates and resolves allegations of sexual misconduct and abuse involving participants in the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic movement. Investigative processes can seem daunting and complicated. This video will help you better understand our response and resolution process and answer common questions. This process begins when we receive a report of abuse or misconduct, either by phone or through our website. Our intake team reviews all reports to determine if the center has jurisdiction over both the alleged misconduct and the individual alleged to have engaged in that conduct. In addition to sexual misconduct, the center may also investigate physical and emotional misconduct claims or decide they are best resolved by a relevant national governing body. Once we determine the center is the appropriate party to investigate a matter, we begin a preliminary inquiry process. Here, we seek to verify what's been reported and gather initial information. This generally includes contacting involved parties. After reaching out to a claimant, we may learn that what's been reported is simply inaccurate, or a claimant may say they're just not ready or able to discuss the situation now. Others may not respond at all. In these preliminary conversations, we explain to claimants the resolution process, answer any questions, and discuss options for participation. We know these situations can be difficult to talk about, and we encourage claimants and other involved parties to participate at the level or time they feel comfortable. Depending on what we've learned at this stage, next steps for a case may include administrative closure, informal resolution, or referral for formal investigation. Even if we close a case due to insufficient information, these cases can be reopened and investigated later if more relevant information becomes available. Some cases involve behaviors that are inappropriate but less severe. These can often be handled through an informal resolution, with a respondent taking accountability for the misconduct and working with the center to ensure it doesn't happen again. Also, during preliminary inquiry, the center determines if temporary measures should be imposed, ranging from a no-contact directive to supervision requirements or travel-related restrictions to a full temporary suspension in severe cases such as child sexual abuse, where reducing risk to other minor athletes may be imperative. These measures can be implemented, removed, or modified throughout an investigation as new information is learned or circumstances evolve. We know temporary measures have an impact on individuals involved in a resolution process, so they're only issued in a small percentage of cases, only as necessary to reduce risk. We decide whether temporary measures are necessary and appropriate based on 3 factors: the severity of the allegations, the sufficiency of the evidence, and the risk posed to the Olympic and Paralympic community. For allegations involving any form of child abuse, center employees must by law report them promptly to law enforcement, with whom we often work during investigative processes. Once staff has fully assessed allegations and referred a case to the investigations team, we notify a respondent of an investigation through a formal notice of allegations letter. This letter provides a general description of allegations, explains next steps, and provides contacts for resources and questions. It's critical to an investigation that we give respondents a full and fair opportunity to respond to allegations. Throughout the process, respondents are entitled to an advisor of their choice, such as a lawyer, and prior to final decision, respondents have the opportunity to offer their account of the situation and to provide witnesses and relevant evidence. Once the investigation is complete, cases undergo multi-level review before any decision is issued. Investigators submit their report to a supervisor for review. It's then reviewed by legal counsel, who determines whether a safe sport code violation occurred. If a violation is found, a committee reviews those findings, assesses mitigating and aggravating factors, and assigns appropriate sanctions. Resolution of misconduct ultimately assesses an individual's fitness to participate in the Olympic community. Sanctions can range from a formal warning to a term of probation to a period of suspension. In most egregious cases of misconduct, such as forcible sexual activity or child sexual abuse, the center may render an individual permanently ineligible to participate in sport under Olympic movement auspices. Once claimants and respondents are notified of a decision, respondents can contest an outcome by requesting a hearing with an independent arbitrator who may agree or disagree with the center's findings and/or sanctions, and whose decision to affirm or deny a sanction is ultimately final and binding. The center's primary concern is to reach the proper outcome based on thorough investigation. You can always contact us directly with questions or find more resources and detail on the center's website.
Now time for an insurance update with Rebecca Cumming and Christian Deputy of Buckner.
Hi, I'm Rebecca. I'm a client advisor with Buckner and part of the team handling your insurance at USA Water Polo. We are an insurance brokerage firm based in Utah with offices in the West, and we'd like to briefly introduce ourselves. The Buckner team is myself, I'm Rebecca. You'll meet Christian in a few minutes, and when your daily insurance needs arise, such as those certificates to get in the pools, you'll get to know Alicia and Julie. Thank you so much for having us. We're here because the insurance market is changing. Our goal today is to review the changes and challenges affecting the insurance industry, especially for organizations serving minors. Our experience in working with and speaking to national governing bodies is that the expense of insurance, which only a few years ago was a minor budget consideration, has increased by 300 to 400% for many NGBs. We'd like to briefly discuss the what and the why of these insurance changes, and then we'll spend a few minutes talking about how we'll deal with them. So what is the story behind the changes? Why are these changes driving insurance costs up? And how will USA Water Polo respond to the changes with relevant solutions? How will we get through this and become a better organization? What is the story behind the changes in the insurance market? In the wake of NASAR, Boy Scouts, the Catholic Church, and many other tragic stories of loss, the insurance market has reactively changed. These incidents have grieved us as a society, and we've acted with important social movements such as Me Too that have encouraged victims to speak out. Legislation has been introduced and passed to allow victims a larger reporting window. For example, in New Jersey, the prior statute of limitations allowed victims of minor abuse to report until age 23 and has recently been extended to allow reporting until the age of 55. Victims are encouraged to speak out, and there is more opportunity to do so. And as a society, we feel obligated to hold someone responsible for the damage of sexual abuse. Additionally, there are now scientifically driven protocol and training for concussion prevention and the overall safety of our athletes. A head injury is now understood to be severe and long-lasting, and the battle for safety, it's been costly. Though many of the reasons for our societal increased awareness and litigiousness are admirable, there may be some unforeseen and unintended consequences. Why have these changes driven insurance costs up? Insurance settlements have grown exponentially, causing major strain to the insurance industry and its buyers. The problem is insurance is more expensive than ever. According to risk placement specialist Sean McCall, abuse claims are one of the most likely exposures that can financially wipe out an entity that works with children. Abuse claims are settled in the $1 million range now. The largest single victim abuse verdict was $40 million. In addition to abuse claims, the insurance industry has been plagued with other large claims and settlements related to concussion, athlete injuries, volunteer spectator injuries, and discrimination lawsuits, among other challenges. Settlements have jumped from the hundreds or thousands to the $1 million range. The cost to defend and, when necessary, settle these claims has become extremely burdensome. One or two claims, regardless of their truthfulness, have the power to damage an entire sport. In the past, the insurance industry was not charging adequate liability premiums to cover the upcoming exponentially larger settlements, the revised statute of limitations, opening the reporting window, and the cost to defend. As a result, insurers swallowed huge losses. Underwriters are backpedaling or pumping the brakes by cutting limits, reducing coverages, or exiting the market altogether. What we now see is a much smaller, hardened market. Those insurers who remain in the market often offer policies with little to no actual abuse or head injury coverage, or policies with seemingly exorbitant premiums. The insurers willing to write sports coverages are cautious and accepting high-risk organizations such as NGBs. They're scrupulously attentive to risk management practices, and they're distrustful of the implementation of alleged best practices. Now, I'd like to introduce you to Christian, who will discuss how USA Water Polo will respond to these changes with relevant solutions and how we will get through this and become a better organization.
Thanks, Rebecca. Again, thanks for having us. We're grateful to be able to spend a few minutes with you. I get the lucky part of this presentation and to tell you about the good news. There is some good news. It's not all doom and gloom. There's things to look forward to. There's opportunities within this. Let me tell you about a few things that are going on within the organization that we think are really a good sign, and talk about some things that we're going to do. One, we got a clean audit. USA Water Polo received a clean audit from the Center for Safe Sport. They were the first NGB to receive this. It's great news. It means we're compliant with the organization that has been charged with making sure we're doing the right things in how we handle our SAM risk, our sexual abuse risk. You have great leaders. We think this is just a fabulous sign. You're led by wonderful leaders that are good leaders, and they care about the sport and about the athletes and about the organization and its members. And they've built a culture that demonstrates that they care and they're dedicated to doing the right thing. And this is a fabulous thing. We work with lots of organizations, and we don't see this everywhere. And you guys should be proud of what you've built and the organization that you have. If you'll permit me, I want to share a story. It's a personal story, and I hope you'll bear with me for just a moment. And I will tie this into how I think it impacts USA Water Polo. In 2010, we're in Utah, where our office is in Utah, and we live in Utah. And so we try and take advantage of the mountains and the outdoor activities that surround us. 2010, after work, I decided to leave the office and meet a friend and go on a mountain biking ride. That day, I had done this many times before, but on this day, I actually wrecked on my mountain bike. I ran into a tree, hitting my forehead. I was fortunately wearing a helmet, but the tree won the battle, and I broke my neck. That actually dislocated my second vertebrae and left me completely paralyzed on the trail. That led to a rescue breathing by a friend, and a rescue off the mountain by search and rescue, a fabulous helicopter ride down to the local hospital, where I spent the next couple of months relearning how to walk, how to eat, how to do all the basic things that we all know how to do, which led to another year of full-time physical therapy. And so why do I tell you this story? What I discovered through this experience is often we can't anticipate the challenges that we're going to face. I think we're going through that right now. This pandemic has been something that none of us anticipated. It's been a challenge, and we've seen the same thing in other parts of youth sports, and we haven't been immune to that in USA Water Polo. We're going through a challenge that we just didn't anticipate. And yet, from my experience, what I discovered is these challenges provide great opportunities. I'll often tell that story to someone, and they will respond with, "Oh, I'm so sorry." And my response often is, "You know, it's okay. It's actually turned out wonderful. there were things that came out of that, opportunities, lessons that I've learned that I feel have made me better. And I feel like this challenge that we're dealing with SAM and other just insurance issues and issues around athlete safety, and there are a number of them that Rebecca outlined, and there are others. But through that, we're going to find opportunities. We're going to find opportunities to get better. And when we look back on this, even though they seem extreme right now, we'll look back on this in the future, and I think we'll realize we became a better organization. We were able to help our athletes better. We were able to train better. We were able to improve who we are in the organizations that we run through this challenge. So how are we going to do that? Your leaders have been working on a plan on how we can take advantage of what we're already doing that's great, and capitalize on some help that we may be able to get. So the USA Water Polo leaders have made a decision to engage a consultant to help us. The focus right now will be on our SAM risk management, sexual abuse and molestation risk management. And how is this going to work? We're going to ask somewhere between 10 and 20 clubs to get involved in a process. And let me briefly describe what this process is. The consultant that's been hired will work with these 10 to 20 clubs that agree to be part of this process. And we will evaluate the strengths and best practices of the clubs. All of you have great things that you're doing. You've identified areas of things you can do. And we're going to go through an interview and an application process that will help us evaluate and identify those strengths. With that information, we'll use best practices from around the industry, in addition to the best practices that we discover within USA Water Polo, to build a rating system and a risk management practice. That rating system is going to allow us a few things. It's going to give you guys a benchmark, just like a credit rating. It will give you an understanding of how you're doing. Are we really the best of the best? Or are there opportunities where we're doing some things great and maybe some areas where we could improve on something? So this rating system will give us an opportunity to evaluate ourselves and then find ways that we can make ourselves better. It will also do something else. It's going to give us a very clear understanding to give our underwriters, or the insurance company underwriters, an understanding of how well we're doing. And with that, just like a credit rating, when we can demonstrate that we're doing well, we're going to be able to get better insurance terms, better pricing, more coverage, and so forth. So this process of understanding what we're doing really well, taking that information and working on it to become even better, and having a clear rating that we can give underwriters will help us over time improve the safety that we're providing for our athletes and our members and our participants, and give us a way to communicate that with insurance companies so we can get better terms and conditions. I kind of look at it as how we develop athletes, or teams or so forth. We'll look and say, hey, we've got a great team, but we don't leave it at that. We take that great team and we look for little ways that we can make that team better. And that's what we're going to do here. We're going to take something that we're doing well, and we're going to find little enhancements and little ways that we can improve and make ourselves that much better, just like we do in sports. And that will lead to a safer, better organization where our athletes can perform better and we can stay focused on the core of what we're doing to build great teams. So with that, we're really excited. We think there's great opportunities ahead of us. Even though there's challenges, we'll come out of this. We'll find great ways to succeed. We're grateful for the opportunity that we've had to get to know your leaders. We're looking forward to getting to know you and working on making USA Water Polo just that much better. We're really honored. It's a great organization. And again, we look forward to getting to know you through future interactions and opportunities to engage. So have a great assembly. Look forward to future interactions. Thanks.
Now time for a calendar and event update with Ryan Cunane.
Greetings, everyone. Welcome to the General Assembly. My name is Ryan Cunane. I'm the Director of Events and Sport Growth, and I wanted to take a couple of moments to share some updates with you on our playing calendar for 2021. As you can see in front of you, we plan to put on a full slate of events this year, but the one event that we get the most questions around is Junior Olympics. JOs this year is going to take place July 17th to the 25th in Orange County, and we're committed to putting on this tournament in its traditional format. We've been working with our zones, and we will continue to work with our zones as we get closer to the qualification window to make sure that all zones can put on the qualification tournament in the traditional format. If any flexibility is needed, we're going to make sure we're working and communicating with our zones to put on the best possible quals so that we can have the best possible JOs in July. Switching gears to sanctioned events. Some of our member clubs in states like Arizona, Utah, Florida, and Texas have been able to host tournaments over the last couple of months. None more so than Sean Stringham from Olympus Water Polo, who's put on several events in Salt Lake City. We've brought Sean on here today to share some of the safety procedures that he's put in place for his tournaments. Sean?
Hi, everyone. My name is Sean Stringham. I'm the club director with Olympus Water Polo in Salt Lake City, Utah. I have recently been involved in the management of several events in the past several months. I wanted to give you a quick overview of some of the COVID policies that we've had in place to meet our facility and local health department guidelines so that we could host and help bring competitive water polo tournaments back into the pool. First off, we asked all of the athletes and coaches and officials to complete a PCR COVID test 7 days prior to competition so that they were safe to travel. While traveling, we suggested all of the traveling parties keep their bubbles very small, obviously practicing great practices there. Upon arrival at the host hotel and prior to the tournament play, we validated the negative COVID test for the athletes, coaches on the rosters, and then we followed that up with a 15-minute rapid response antigen test. Upon a negative for those, they were given a credential so that they were able to participate in the tournaments. Athletes testing positive on the rapid response were given the opportunity to take another PCR test that we had arranged with a local lab. In terms of facility policing during the tournaments and how we ran the facilities, each team was allowed 30 spectators, essentially 2 per athlete. We used an electronic ticketing system to reserve those spots and available throughout the tournament, and they were available on the tournament website. Spectators were kept physically distanced from the athletes on deck. There was only one-way traffic at each facility, meaning that they came in through one door and out through another, and all spectators had to leave at the end of each game for the next set of games. Before the next set of games, spectators could enter the facility. Face coverings were mandatory for all spectators, athletes, and coaches. The only exceptions to that were referees that were actively officiating and athletes in the water. We made mask racks to place next to the benches, and that was very convenient for the athletes to hang their mask as they were subbing in and out or during warm. The largest emphasis that we placed on everyone was just to stay in their pod. Be careful with whoever you go out to eat with, if you mix with family or with others, so that they didn't put their overall risk. For one of our larger events, we tested 596 athletes and coaches, are all able to play, and there has been no known COVID spread at the tournament. So I hope this helps you, and I'll turn it back over. Would love to talk more in terms of protocols. Thanks.
Thank you, Sean, for sharing that with everyone. And that concludes our event update for the General Assembly this year. I hope to see everyone on a pool deck here soon. And if you have any questions, please reach out at events@usawaterpolo.org. Thank you very much.
Now time for a national team update with John Abdu.
Hey, welcome everybody to the 2021 USA Water Polo General Assembly. Welcome to the delegates. Welcome to everybody watching or listening wherever you may be in the world right now. My name is John Abdu. I'm the Chief High Performance Officer for USA Water Polo, and I'm just grateful and honored to be able to share with you today what's happening on our side of the world and what's been happening for the last several months and year leading up to today. I'd be remiss to say I hope that all of you are safe, healthy, and managing through all of this to the best of your ability. Just all my best wishes out to everybody as we try to navigate through what has clearly been one of the most difficult times. I'm used to giving this speech at the assembly in front of you, in front of many people in a live audience, and so to do this over Zoom today is obviously indicative of the things that we are all going through. And so I hope that you're all well. Hope that you're managing to the best of your ability so that we can come out of this stronger than ever before. I want to update you on our Olympic teams as we train. As you know, the biggest event of 2020 was supposed to be the Tokyo Olympics. We've now pivoted to Tokyo 2021 this year, planning and hopefully will go in July through August of this year. We're hopeful the games will happen. We're confident the games will occur in a safe way between the IOC and the Tokyo Organizing Committee. We've received all that confidence. And so for our teams to prepare for those games as they happen, they've taken two very unique paths. One, our men have now sent and placed through Coach Dejan Udovicic and staff almost over 20 athletes to Europe to play professionally in those professional leagues, as they've been able to navigate through COVID protocols and play off and on in Europe now. And so with the vast majority of the team and all the key components out in Europe training and playing, we've been able to find breaks in the schedule to come together as a group and also train during those times. So as I speak, as you watch this, our men are in the middle of a 40-day odyssey through Europe together as they compete with European teams as a national team during a break in the club season because the club season is on break right now during the Olympic qualification process for FINA. So it's a wonderful opportunity for our men to come together for this period of time to train in Europe together against the best while people prepare for the Olympic qualification tournament in February in Rotterdam, and then go back to their club teams again afterwards. So we really believe the preparation that the men are doing right now in terms of their individual preparations, their club teams, and then able to come together during breaks to compete as a national team together is the absolute best case scenario we can as we prepare for the games in Tokyo this summer. And very proud of what the men have been doing. And not only have they been able to do that under the guidance of, again, Coach Udovicic and the staff, they've been able to do that. And many of them are pursuing master's degrees online and in master's in business. And many of them were able to receive jobs in the Strategic Business Council. So many of our athletes are really achieving the dual path of preparing themselves for after the life of water polo, but also prepare for at the highest level for the game. So they're taking full advantage of the opportunity to be where they are right now. And I think for all of us, we're very grateful and fortunate that we have water polo as an avenue to continue to chase our dreams in this during this time. And as the same similar overriding goals for the women as we prepare for Tokyo 2021, but we've been blessed to have the support of the military base in Los Alamitos, the Joint Forces base, where we were able to bypass some of the California standards in terms of protocols with our own. So the women have had to put in some very stringent COVID protocols to be able to continue to train at the base in Los Alamitos under the guidance of, again, Coach Gregorian and our senior medical manager, Larnie Boquerin, and our team physician, Dr. Elmo Agatept. We've been able to put in some stringent protocols that keep the women training at the base, and they've been doing so consistently since last year, and that full-time training continues on a daily basis there. Those protocols include the obvious things like social distancing or physical distancing and keeping the weight room and our dressing areas clean and separate. We're doing almost everything outside, but the biggest change in that is we are testing regularly with the women, which has been a heavy burden for us to be able to not only procure the tests, which have a price tag and a cost to them, but also administer them consistently to keep the athletes safe. And so we're proud of the efforts that we've done there to keep the team safe, and also are looking ahead to being able to maybe take those protocols and use them to be able to host teams here stateside, hosting other teams that have already qualified for the Olympics. Again, as we speak today, the Olympic qualification tournament just happened. So the teams, the final field for the women's Olympic tournament is complete. And so inviting some of those teams, other teams to potentially train here as we look ahead towards, traveling again, hopefully in June for World League Super Final, and then preparing for the games at Tokyo 21. So our women are continuing to prepare in what they're doing there, but two different paths with the men and women, but the overriding goal of keeping the athletes safe, keeping them well. The women are also taking advantage of those online resources and being able to take care of many of them getting their master's degrees online, many of them continuing with their professional work with the Strategic Business Council at these companies. So it's been a real pleasure to see them attack both these goals as we prepare for the summer. the overriding goal is the success in the Olympic Games, and I hope that you can continue to have your support, but also cheer the teams on as they navigate this. It's frankly very inspiring to see them take that gut punch of having the games postponed as they have been, but then put that goal out a year. To see them continue to push and to drive forward through this is again, nothing short of inspiring. So as we continue to look underneath that pipeline, as we prepare for the Olympics, the ODP program, as we try to navigate this through COVID as well, has been able to have some clinics in areas. So as local guidelines allow, ODP zone head coaches in their areas are able to put on clinics to be able to keep the curriculum and the teaching out for those. Not every area has been successful in doing so, based on the safety protocols and the guidelines of the states and the counties. And so nationally, the program has looked very different up until this point. But looking ahead, as we can hopefully see a light at the end of the tunnel here, we'll continue to hold clinics within zones as it's allowed, as safety is allowed for within local guidelines. And we're hoping by the end of April and into May that we will be able to host our regional championships again. Looking ahead into end of April, maybe potentially Memorial Day weekend, be able to host regional championships where zones can name their zone teams based on these clinics, based on some evaluations during high school seasons, club seasons, get zone teams together, play some regional championships, like I said, towards the end of the spring, so that in the summer, again, if allowed and if possible, then we can hold our national team selection camps in June and be able to compete internationally at the end of the summer, again, assuming it's safe to do so and all these guidelines, as we follow the guidelines and the world begins to open up. That's the best case scenario for us to be able to do that. I mentioned high school seasons because we rely so much on the high schools for so much of our competitive opportunity, as well as our growth and development of the sport in general. So as high school seasons begin to take shape, as we are starting to see as we speak today, we will navigate around those high school seasons and within those high school seasons so that we can collaborate together to make sure there's not conflict within states and state championships and regions, however these are playing out, so that both athletes can both compete for their high school and also be able to do ODP afterwards. And so keep in mind that the high school, as we know, is an entry point and the lowest barrier of entry for many athletes in water polo across the country, as it's a very low cost way to be invited into water polo. So very much supportive of continuing to see high school water polo grow as we go forward here. And again, another shout out to the great state of Texas as they prepare now for the postponement of their high school season in 2022 in the fall of 22 as we continue to grow and develop in those areas. And so in terms of ODP, that's where we're at. Zones and zone head coaches, please stay in touch with each other so that as you're able to conduct these clinics and as you're able to come online in your areas, then as you said, end of spring, we can begin to come together for some championship and some gameplay potentially, and then into summer for national team selection camps and get back into our international travel, which I know we're all itching to get back to and continue the development to lead up to our Olympic teams as we prepare for the Olympics and what timing that'll be this summer as it all happens at the same time. Another aspect that I think has been really powerful for us during this time has been our professional development opportunities. It's been, again, another inspiring thing during these kind of dark COVID times to watch as much collaboration amongst our coaches as we've seen in terms of professional development and sharing knowledge and getting things out there. The referees are included in that as well. So, shout out to our national referee manager, Lavon Dermejdian and Tiffany Spirito Santo. They've been able, and also Chad Packer out in our Great Lakes area. Thank you all for what you all are doing as we have been able to certify online and create online curriculums and online Zoom schools for referees. And we've certified hundreds of referees in the last several months to be ready to go. Once the world opens up, we'll be ready to go to referee. And so to have that now precision of being able to train our referees online and perfect that during this time has been something that we will be using a lot more in the future. And shout out to all the referees and coaches who took advantage and continue to take advantage of these schools online as we go forward here. The rest of the professional development for our coaches and athletes, and particularly in our coach education department, a big shout out to Drew Clute our coach education manager, and Ian Davidson for all the work that they did in developing and pushing our professional development forward. I encourage everybody to go to mobilecoach.usawaterpolo.org and check out our revamped coach education app. It's a free resource for all USA Water Polo member coaches. The same membership number that you put into your USA Water Polo login can also be used, the exact same login, on this website, mobilecoach.usawaterpolo.org. And on that website, you have access to hundreds and hundreds of videos and thousands of resources out there from all our coaches across the country. And this is an aggregate of those things in one place. And it's really an essential resource, I think, for any water polo coach, beginner, intermediate, advanced. You're going to find something in there for you able to use during this time and moving forward. And so, again, encourage everybody to jump into that. It is on the web, but then you'll also be able to download the app to access those things when you're back on the pool deck on your phone, iPad, whatever tablet as you continue to coach forward. Something else our coach education department put together in December was our second annual coach academy. It's a certification program where we went through approximately 40 coaches on the boys side, 40 coaches on the women's side who were able to receive a professional certificate for completing our coach education course online. And we had speakers from all over the country take part of this. And that was the second annual one. The first one was in Colorado Springs, this one online again. And looking ahead to next year, hopefully we can be back in person, but keep on the lookout for these coach certification programs where you can get a certificate, continue your education, continue your professional development as those opportunities arise. We did that online in December simultaneously while we had 100 athletes on the boys and girls side of Holiday Camp being able to first ever. Holiday Camp is one of our richest and oldest traditions at USA Water Polo, and that was moved online in December. And again, just something else that kept my spirits up and a lot of our spirits up was to watch all these athletes and take advantage of an online holiday camp, the first of its kind after 35 years in Colorado Springs. To see that come to a halt was obviously disheartening for many, but so many athletes took advantage of the online version, and we look forward to being back in December next year for that, back in Colorado Springs, back at the Olympic Training Center. So again, shout out to all those athletes and coaches for making that happen and taking advantage and not sitting on their hands and an opportunity to get better at getting better, right? And that's what we're all trying to do, is just continue getting better at getting better. And all that we're doing in our pipeline, our coaches education and ODP, that leads up to where I started this talk with our national teams who are training and competing for the 2021 Olympics. Another thing to look ahead, the last thing I'll say, as we come back aligned, a reminder that, again, the last time I spoke at this assembly, we talked a lot about development of younger players and the rules at those age groups. Last year in 2020, we started out at our Dare to Dream festivals and at Rocktober with smaller sided balls, smaller sided games, smaller courses for these age groups, and particularly talking about 10 and unders and 12 and unders, something to look ahead to as we can begin to come back into competition, that we are looking for, as many 5-on-5, 4-on-4 opportunities in smaller courses, smaller sided ball for these younger athletes. This is something that is tried and true and tested across sports around the world, that we want athletes to have more touches, more exposure, more engagement in the game and these smaller sided games. So look again for that at the 10 and 12 and under levels as we push forward, as we want to continue to develop this base of athletes, the largest part of our pyramid of athletes, to get the ball in their hands playing the sport of water polo as much as possible. And so appreciate everyone's efforts and understanding of where we're trying to go in terms of developing our athletes. Our splash ball efforts have been revamped again with manuals and registration fees and being able, all those things that can make it very easy for you to plop a splash ball pod from Cap 7 into your pool, and the curriculum online for us. All those things are online. Take advantage of this growth and development. I hope that this COVID-19 break gives us an opportunity to think about the base level of our sport and growing it at the grassroots level in a diverse and equitable and inclusive way for all athletes to be involved in the great sport of water polo. And so with that, I appreciate the time and the gratitude that I get to continue to help the sport and be with you today. And I hope that we all continue to take on this idea of growing our sport together as a group so that the highest levels can benefit with that over time. And appreciate all that you all do as delegates and everyone watching or listening to this back home, that you're doing in your local areas to grow and help the sport. And Go USA.
Now time for a men's national team update with head coach Dan Udovicic and a Q&A with team captain Jesse Smith.
Hello everyone, my name is Dan Udovicic and I'm the head coach of the men's team. I just want to inform a little bit about situation with our team right now and what we are doing and what are the plans for upcoming months regarding preparation for Olympics and for our best performance in Tokyo 2021. So currently we are in Athens, finishing the first week of practice with the Greek national team. After that we are flying to Montenegro to have a tournament with Serbia and Montenegro. And after spending 1 week in Montenegro, we will go to Serbia to have 1 week of common practice with the Serbian national team. And we will finish the last week of this 1 month of preparation in Croatia and in Rome in Italy, where we're going to play some games with the national team of Croatia, national team of Italy, national team of Spain. Hopefully, if everything goes well, we will finish around the 15th of February. Situation is that right now we have 20 players who will participate in this 1 month of preparation. So far, so good. Some players will be, 3 weeks. Some players will be 2 weeks. With the group, depends of their, duties and obligations. But we made a very good plan, and we are hoping that we will, conclude and finish everything what we plan. So, regarding the situation after that period, for March, April, and May, we still didn't precise exactly what we're going to do. Depends on the situation. We have a plan A, plan B, and plan C. We'll see how all the things going to play out. But we are hoping for the best, and hopefully we will know much more until end of the February, month of the February. So in June, probably we will have some practice. In May and June, we will have some practices in States, and from there we will go to play super final in Georgia or World League, and after that we will have some preparation tournament in Tokyo, in Japan before opening of the games in Tokyo. So right now I'm satisfied how the team is doing. Probably you heard all our players will, still are playing abroad. This is our current situation, and this is what we could organize in this pandemic situation. In the end, I'm wishing you successful assembly, Happy New Year, and best health for each of you in the upcoming year.
Hi everyone, Greg Meskel here with you, talking with Team USA men's national team captain Jesse Smith. Jesse joining us from Europe, where the USA men's national team is training and competing. Jesse, thanks for being here.
Thank you, Greg. Hi everyone.
Hey Jesse, this has been quite a year. It was supposed to be the Olympics last year. Now we're looking at around 6 months to Tokyo, this time looking towards the summer. Just tell us, how has the team worked through all the challenges of the pandemic?
Yeah, our team's been working through the pandemic with amazing support from our staff. The whole time since last March, we've had really just like constant communication with meetings twice a week. And Dan's been leading the charge, and amazing support from everyone. Chris, Steven's been helping. Lori's been amazing. Alex and Gavin, and even Rachel Mack from the USOC nutritionist. I mean, it's been a really big team effort, and it's so nice because tonight, we finished another training with Greece, and they're one of the best teams. They won the World League qualifier recently, and according to my score, we ended up tied, leaving the practice with them. It's unofficial, so no one knows, but it felt really good to play with a caliber team like that, and so it's been a really good team effort.
Now, you're no stranger to playing for club teams abroad. This has been a record high now. There's going to be 19 guys playing in Europe. You've traveled to Europe to train with the team. How valuable is this experience going to be for all these athletes that are getting to play with some of the best clubs in the world?
I'm so excited that so many of our players are on professional teams in Europe right now. It's just a different level. It's the same. The college level is really quite great, but the degree of intensity in the games in Europe are a little bit higher, and because you have a more broader base of players, and so super exciting to see them all playing. And we have, Alex Obert's on Jug Dubrovnik, a famous team, and Ben Halleck's on Pro Reco. I mean, this is really good to see U.S. players on these high caliber teams that could win Champions League. So it's really exciting for us as a national team to have those players, to be on a team with those guys. They can bring the experience back to us and we can all share it together. So it's super exciting.
Now, for most of the fans watching, I'm sure they feel like the last time they saw this group together was on the podium in Lima, Peru, winning gold at the Pan American Games. And that was now a year and a half ago. With the way things have gone with the pandemic, there was so much excitement around that as you qualified for Tokyo. How do you kind of get that good energy back, and how do you build off of what your team had built over the summer of 2019?
Winning the Pan American gold medal, it was really important for our team. We overcame a lot of adversity going into that tournament, coming from Korea, and it was really nice to come together and get the job done. Canada and Brazil, they've been doing really well with their water polo programs, so we kind of put it in the goal and finished our business. But what's really exciting is that even though there's so much tragedy right now with the pandemic and so many more problems, overcoming that, looking at the Olympics, we're going to put ourselves in the best position to hopefully win some crossover games and have a chance to earn the U.S. a medal. I think everyone on the group, all the players on our 20-man squad, and all the coaches, we want to be part of a winning team. So it's super exciting to overcome this really big mountain. But I think you're going to see a ton of athletes from all sports super fired up at the Olympics, and we want to be one of those stories. So that's why we're putting the hard work in now.
Jesse, you got a chance to interact with a lot of our USA Water Polo members over Zooms, and I know in normal times you're out doing camps and you're at ODP. Just tell us about the support you've felt from the water polo community over the last 12 months and what it's been like to interact with them, even if you can't always be in the water with them.
That's a really good point. Our community, I did do a lot of Zooms as well as a lot of other national team players. I saw Maggie Steffens on a lot, and we even ran some ODP. We got to run some ODP, and Maddie was down there. And so we've been doing a little bit in person, but most of it is online. And just like when you asked earlier about our team, how do we make it through? We did, Zoom, and we watched videos. A great thing that kind of came from this is how well FINA TV, they put the World League qualifier on there, and it was really pleasurable to watch. It was super fun, exciting game. So I think there's a big tournament qualifier for last couple spots for the Olympics coming up in February, and you can sign on and watch that. But what's the network and community of our sport's been amazing. Specifically a couple guys on our team, the two clubs, Olympic Club up in San Francisco and New York Athletic Club. It's been great to have support from those guys. I know all the players have really appreciated that. So on a micro level, high schooler, this week they announced some of the players in San Diego, they weren't going to play their senior year. And so I think that just remembering that we're not just water polo players, but it makes us better to practice and to train. And as an athlete, you learn amazing skills that you can't learn otherwise. So it's hold your heads up high, but just keep grinding and find something you can target. For me, like the Olympics, that it's the light at the end of the tunnel. And I think a lot of other athletes are looking at it like that.
You've talked about this a bit before already, but the Olympics, after having a year delayed, you've talked about how everyone is going to be so fired up to be there. You're trying to work on your 5th Olympic Games. Can you imagine what it's going to be like if you can be there with Team USA and like you said, try and win some games and go for that medal?
Yeah, I think what's really special about our group is that, we're coming to the tournament. We're not ranked in the top 3, but we want to be there. And everyone in our training group, myself included, we want to contribute to the group. And I have a lot, I'm a veteran player, so I've been there before. Winning a silver medal was I was so lucky to be with those players. Those players really, as a team, that's what makes it great. And I think we've got a really special group right now, and it's led by our coach, Dan. He's doing a really good job, but he's got an amazing support staff. Even, you all at USA Water Polo, like Greg, doing this interview with me, I think that it's a really big team effort, and there's a lot of moving parts behind the scenes. Even the USOPC, there's so many people that wear different hats and really contribute to the US's success as a group. So we're a tiny part of that, and we're just hoping that we get a chance, and it will be amazing. It's going to be awesome. So stay tuned.
And Jesse, the last thing before we let you get back to it here in Europe with Team USA, but for anyone that follows you on Instagram or on social media at GoSmith now, let's make sure they follow you. But you do such a good job kind of bringing people along for the ride and sharing your journey. So it's great that fans have seen that. But one thing that you're always doing is sharing your family. And you recently released a children's book, Wally the Water Polo Playing Walrus. You're always having your family in news stories and you and all the kids training in the backyard. Just what has it been like on this water polo journey for you to involve your whole family?
Yeah, I mentioned it and you asked about it, kind of the community. And I think that it really is important that you, as an athlete, that, we step back and appreciate and have gratitude for the opportunity to play. That's what this year has really highlighted for me. We work with Brian Alexander, a sports psychologist, and gosh, there's so much room for learning and always developing new skills. So me as a veteran player and just as a member of the team, like, it's such an honor to represent our country. And I've been really fortunate that I have, a family, and I'm still able to contribute and be part of the team. And I try to bring them on that journey because, gosh, winning a medal in front of all your fans that are, all your friends and family, it's really special. So I'd love to try to do that. And I think, what I'm talking about. Everyone here that's watching this, how water polo, how great it is, and sharing that stoke. That's, that's why I have a children's book, that kind of explains some of the fun stuff about water polo, or egg beater, which we take for granted, but such an important survival skill, to be able to tread water and to be able to be comfortable. So yeah, it's all part of the journey. And so I'm really thankful for everyone at USA Water Polo and everyone watching this. Thank you very much.
Jesse, so good to talk with you. Thanks for taking some time out of the busy training schedule with Team USA. And we're looking forward to seeing you back in the pool here, back in the US very soon.
Awesome. Thanks, Greg.
Now time for a women's national team update with head coach Adam Krikorian and a Q&A with team captain Maggie Steffens.
Hi, everyone. Adam Krikorian here, your USA women's national team head coach. Hope everyone is well. That's the very first thing I'd like to say is just want to wish everyone the best moving forward. I know this has been a difficult time for so many of you, for all of us really, in this community and country and the world. Just want to wish everyone the best moving forward the next few months and really look forward to getting back to our normal lives and seeing so many of you on a pool deck very, very soon. With regard to our national team and maybe some of the challenges that we've faced, as you can imagine, they're no different than so many of you going through this pandemic. As it relates to us specifically, our training has been very inconsistent. For so many of us, we love structure and kind of continuity and some consistency. We haven't really been able to get any of that, which has been a struggle. And obviously the biggest thing is the postponement of the Olympic Games and the added stress and anxiety that has caused. We've asked our athletes to kind of put their lives on hold in some ways. We've lost one of the best players in the world in Kylie Neuschel, who understandably has moved on, but we'll certainly miss her tremendously. And, it's been a struggle probably just to stay motivated, to stay fit, to stay engaged. I'm sure all of you can kind of relate to that on some sense, but I've said before how sometimes the continuity that we have can lead to complacency. I was worried about that before, but I think if there's a positive thing through this whole thing is that this continuity, we have 10 out of our 18 athletes who have been with us since 2014. I have an entire staff, including assistant coaches Dan Cladd and Chris Oding, who are just fabulous, who've been with us for a long, long time. So we understand the style of play. We understand the culture in which we want to try to create. And I think that's kind of helped provide some stability for us moving forward. And, quite frankly, we're just looking forward to getting the opportunity to compete again. It's been 11 months since we played our last game. The Russians are really the only thing on our schedule moving forward, which is in the middle of February. They'll be coming into town, hopefully playing a couple games and getting some good training in. And then we look forward to representing our country, our sport, all of you in the Olympic Games. It's always a special opportunity. At the same time, I think this Olympic Games is going to have a little bit of a deeper meaning and something that we're really going to cherish. There's a greater purpose to this whole process and to what I always say is the world's greatest event and the best display of world peace there is. So we really look forward to kind of following through and making you all proud again, hopefully. And we appreciate your support as always. Go USA. And again, I really look forward to seeing so many of you on a pool deck very soon.
Hey everyone, great to be joined now by Maggie Steffens, checking in with us from practice in Los Alamitos. Maggie, thanks for being here with us.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me. I'm in our beautiful weight room, as you can tell.
I know everyone is so excited to see Team USA back in the water. It's been such a weird year for everyone in the water polo community. Just tell us a bit about how you and the rest of the women have worked through the challenges with this pandemic, from postponements and stoppages and now back in the water.
I think something that's been really, really important for us as we've been together through all of this is just that, being together, right? I think that's what water polo has given us, is this aspect of teamwork and this feeling of always being a part of something bigger. And while there's been all this chaos and so many cancellations and all of these changes, one thing has stayed constant, and that's our ability to stay focused as a team and stay committed to one another as a team. That's like the staple of who we are as this women's USA water polo team. So I think through all of this and hopefully through these next months of training, we can keep that staple and that, commitment to one another and commitment to one another's purpose and being there. That's the most important thing. So we've had a lot of different types of trainings. We've changed schedules. Teams were supposed to come. We were supposed to travel. A lot of things didn't happen. But what we've done is just control what we can control and make the most of, each opportunity we're given. So as long as we stay together and keep making the most of each opportunity, which I think our team has been doing a phenomenal job at, I think we'll be able to, make 2021 a great year.
That sounds great. And, talking with so many people in the water polo community, they used to dread the morning swim sets and weekend practices, and now people would give anything to be back with their teammates. We're seeing it in some parts around the country, other places still slow to come back. But give us a little inside info when you could finally get back at practice with Team USA. And I know those early days you couldn't really even give each other a hug or do the normal greetings you would, but what was it like just to finally be back on the pool deck with your teammates?
Yeah, I think, anybody who knows water polo understands that it's a community sport. It's so much, like I just mentioned, about your team, this new family you've created. And so definitely I would say when we weren't allowed to hug each other or even have contact, that was such a new experience for us. And so once we were able to, safely be around each other and train and give each other like a secret hug in the water, it just meant so much because, like you're saying, when you do things over and over again, you go to morning practice every day, you smell of chlorine, right? All these things that come with water polo, they seem less exciting. It's just habitual. It's something you do every day. But once that gets taken away from you, just for that little day or the 8 months it was, whatever it is, once you get that taste back, you never want to let it go. So we've really just tried to soak up every moment we get in the pool. If you get to take a shot, make it the best shot you can take. Or if you do a swim set, make it the best you can do, because never know when it's going to happen again. So there's that, value of gratitude there that has been really strong for our team during all of this.
Now, earlier this month, you were doing a bunch of interviews with stations around the country, talking, of course, 6 months after Tokyo. It's hard to believe we're back there again, right? We're back at this countdown to Tokyo once more. Your team considered the best in the world, right? When we last saw you playing competitively, just coming off that epic win streak, winning all these things, the expectations are still very high. How does this team recapture that momentum that you had built up before the pandemic?
Yeah, it's definitely odd to not have played any games in pretty much a year now. But that doesn't mean that we haven't mentally been still preparing for what's to come. And I think that's something that's been such a huge value to this team, is our ability to, envision things and imagine what could happen and put ourselves in a position mentally where we might be in 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months. And when you're able to do that, you're able to train a lot harder, and you're able to train with a little bit of that extra oomph when you can imagine, not just playing at Los Alamitos, but imagine playing on the biggest stage. So, momentum is something that can be taken away, you can earn, you can gain, but it's also something you can create. And it doesn't matter if another team has it, we have it. Really what's most important about momentum is, where's your focus, right? So if our focus is on us, improvement, which is one of our biggest values, is just continual development each day, getting better, we're able to create momentum when we need it most. So for sure, it would be nice to keep riding that wave of a lot of wins. But for those of you guys who might not remember, we lost back in January. So we were kind of feeling what it's like again to get taken down. And every day in practice, I have, Maddie Musselman scores right over the top of me and I get beaten down. So how can you have that resilience and be better in the next moment and in the next day, in the next game? And that's where we can kind of build from that, which actually was happening back in January of 2020. So, hopefully we can just keep doing our best. And to us, that's what's most important, not necessarily the wins. The wins are a byproduct of being our best.
We talked about it a bit earlier, but this pandemic has reminded everyone how much they love water polo, whether you're going for Tokyo or trying to make your varsity team or anything in between. And even with everything that you and the team have won, I always love when you talk about this, but your dream was to be an Olympian and it's still to be one, right? So even though you've won gold twice, you still have that dream and you're chasing it. How has this whole last year put a different perspective on the dream that you have? And I know you've talked about it, but what you feel like things could be in Tokyo, whether it's water polo or just bringing everyone together.
Yeah, you stole my favorite saying. It's something I say all the time. I've always dreamt of being an Olympian, and whether it's happened in the past or not, that's still my dream. It's still my passion. It's still a part of, that purpose for me. And to still be chasing that dream and to be a part of the team that is part of that dream is, just such an honor for me. And so that's also what makes us so special, is during these tough times, during this adversity, we were so lucky to still have our teammates, to still have the people that we're chasing a dream with. And because of that, there's this extra meaning to the Olympics internally of, wow, we've been through a lot together, ups, downs, pandemic, where we've overcome a lot of things and stuck together. And that's what was so important. So internally, there's that kind of extra meaning there when it comes to our team and our teammates. But then externally, I would say, this Olympics is such a huge opportunity to show, not just as our team internally, not just as our country, USA, but as a world, the resilience we've had and the inspiration that we can utilize this platform to showcase to the world what you can do even when you're brought down, right? Because this pandemic didn't just affect one individual or one family or our team, their team, one country. It affected every single person. So this Olympics really is, a magical moment and could be one of the most powerful Olympics to have ever been played and be played, hopefully, in the future. So we're really looking forward to being a part of that, resilience and being a part of that inspiration, and hopefully put our best foot forward.
Well, exciting times hopefully ahead. And last thing for you, Maggie, the assembly group that's tuning in today, that's taking part, they represent water polo from around the country. And while I know there hasn't been as much water polo as we'd like over the last 12 months, people have been able to connect online. You were doing a ton. You still are sharing tips, tactics, Instagram lives, talking with fans. Just give a little sense of how, even though we feel very far apart, how you and your teammates have been able to maybe connect more than ever with the USA Water Polo community.
Yeah, I think, water polo, like I said earlier, is a community sport. It is all about the people, and that's what makes the sport so special. So, even when you can't be around each other playing the game, don't forget you always have teammates. And those teammates don't have to be the people who are wearing the same cap as you. Those teammates can be us, could be our team, right? They can be your coaches, your teachers, anybody who's there to help you get better and to improve, whether it's in the water or out of the water. Remember, those are your teammates and those are part of your water polo community. And then on top of that, I would say there's tons of things you can do outside of the water to help you prepare for when you can play again, right? Watch video, get on, for my company with Tony Azevedo, we have a ton of videos for dry land and in the water on our 6/8 Sports app, right? Track games, watch, I mentioned Maddie Musselman earlier, watch one of her games and just track her, watch every little thing she does, and it can kind of keep you in that mindset of what it feels like to be playing water polo. But I would just say, don't forget that you have your teammates, you still have those people around you, and that's what's really the most important right now is keeping that team intact, whether it's in the water, out of the water, or virtually.
Excellent. Maggie Steffens, always appreciate the time, and we're looking forward to seeing you back in the pool with Team USA very soon.
Thank you.
Now time for an Athletes Advisory Council and Rule 50 update with Jessica Steffens.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jessica Steffens. I'm on the USA Water Polo Board as an athlete director, and I'm also Water Polo's AAC representative. The AAC is the Athlete Advisory Council, and it's a group of athletes from all Olympic and Paralympic sports that get together to communicate with athletes, communicate with the USOPC, and talk about how we can better support our athletes and drive the Olympic movement moving forward. So I wanted to share with you some updates from the AAC over the last couple years, and so I'll get right into it. So one of the main things that's really exciting for us is the professionalization of the AAC. So in the past, all efforts of coordination and planning and content and strategy has been on just the volunteerism of all the athletes. And this year we've been able to hire an executive director to really help us with a lot of the administrative work so that the athletes can focus on the strategy and the athlete perspective and spend less time on all the coordination pieces. So that's really exciting for not only this group, but I think all athletes will benefit from this. The second is, one of the things that we've been kind of always thinking about is how can we increase and continue to improve the athlete voice. And so this year we actually are able to increase our athlete representation on all boards, whether it's the USOPC board or NGB boards, from 20% to 33%. And so that's something that Water Polo will be working on this year to increase that athlete representation. And the third thing that I want to share from the AAC perspective is a lot of work and energy recently has been put into this Rule 50, which you may or may not have heard of. In short, it's an IOC policy that prohibits protests or any political statements at the Olympic Games. It's hard for athletes because the punishments are uncertain, undefined, and wide-ranging, at least in a historical context. And so this is something that athletes, not just in Team USA athletes, but across the world, are pushing to create a little bit more clarity on. And I'm really happy to say that this year the USOPC is really stepping up, has listened to the athlete voice, has listened to the working group that the AAC has put together. And they actually have announced that they will not be sanctioning athletes for demonstrating at the Olympic Games. So again, really excited about not only this statement and what it means for our athletes in Tokyo, but also kind of what it means in terms of the partnership that our athletes in the USOPC can continue to have and partner on. So the next little segment, I wanted to share some updates on, specifically on the water polo front. So this is mostly in regards to supporting and retaining our national team athletes. This year obviously has been really challenging, and especially for our Olympians and Olympic hopefuls. We're really hoping to go to Tokyo in 2020. But with the Olympics being postponed, not only is it challenging kind of emotionally and on training, but direct athlete support has also had to go further than initially planned across the board for all sports. And so USA Water Polo has really stepped up to ensure that direct athlete support is kept whole throughout this year. So that's another kind of really, really great point for our athletes. So the next thing I wanted to share was that USA Water Polo has launched the Strategic Business Council. And this is an initiative to help our national team athletes develop valuable work experience for their professional careers while they're still playing water polo. And I can tell you as an alum myself that it is really important to set these athletes up for success after they're done playing, not only to help them focus at the task at hand, just training for Olympic Games, but it also makes it easier for them to have longer playing careers, knowing that they have that foundation to come back to once they retire. So really excited for this program, not only that we finally launched, and also to see where we can continue to take it. So that's all I wanted to share today. Thank you all for listening, but mostly for playing water polo, being water polo fans, and supporting our national teams. So I really hope to be cheering alongside all of you this summer for the Tokyo Games. And go USA.
Thanks, Jess. Appreciate you sharing that important information. And with that, we've come to the end of our morning session at the USA Water Polo General Assembly. Up next, our Q&A. For all of our registered assembly attendees and registered delegates, you'll have the Zoom link in your email inbox to access the Q&A session. And don't forget, the Google Form Q&A link will be up and running for the next 10 minutes to submit any final questions you have for the Q&A. Thanks again for joining us this morning, and we'll see you shortly for the Q&A session.